This is line 1. It has a Roman numeral 1. Now on the previous page they're introducing you to some of the musical notation, and as we go through the book I'll be explaining it all to you because it's very important that you understand it all. I just don't like explaining everything up front. I think that's a little overwhelming for most people. You probably already have some idea of how to read music, but I'll go ahead and go through it anyway. Some of these things on line 1, some of these symbols, let's talk about a few of them. It's important you understand the words for this stuff that I'm talking about so you can understand what I'm talking about. For instance, if I refer to a measure or a bar line or a time signature or something, you think, what's all that? So you need to know what that is. And on the previous page, at the top of the page, or not the previous page, but page 5, sorry, they're talking about different things, and they show you the clef signs. I'll come back to the clef signs later. Don't worry about those right now. And they show you bar lines. Those are those vertical lines. They're also called measure lines, but they could be called bar lines too. And in between each of those, a space, they call it a bar. It's also known as a measure. Most of the time in this area, we call them measures, but you can call them bars, either one. Bar line or measure line, either one. You need to understand that part for now. Then lower down on the page, they talk about time signatures. A time signature is simply telling you, basically, it's a general guide of how to keep track of the beats, because music is beats, most of it. There's always exceptions, but for the most part, there's beats. We need to know how to keep track of all that. And so the numbers are important, naturally, or they wouldn't be there. The top number tells you how far you have to count. In this first line, it's a 2-4, so we're going to count to 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Not too hard, I hope. The bottom number tells you what you're counting, because if you're going to count something, it helps to know what you're counting. And the 4 means quarter note. Well, that's fine if you know what a quarter note is. You got to know what a quarter note is. Okay, fine. You asked, I'll tell you. A quarter note is a solid circle with a line called a stem. There's 2 of them in that first bar or measure there. You see those 2 notes? Those are quarter notes. That's what they look like. So all the other notes in it is based on these quarter notes. They get 1 count. All the others get how many counts they get in relation to the relation to a quarter note. In the second measure, second bar, there is an open circle with a stem. That's called a half note. Well, 2 quarters and a half. You can guess where we're going with this. The half note is the same as 2 quarter notes. So if a quarter note gets 1 beat, which it does in 2/4 time, quarter note gets 1 beat. Half note gets 2 beats. You hold it down for 2 beats. So pick a note, any note, and if I go 1, 2, 1, 2 and play quarter notes, it's 1, 2, 1, 2. Those are all quarter notes. Never mind what the name of the note is. We're talking counting here. I'm talking numbers. A half note is 2 beats, so I hold it down for 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. This tells us how long to hold a note down. So in the first bar, I'm going to hold those 2 quarter notes down, and then the second bar, it's a half note. I'm going to hold it down. The next bar is 2 more, and then the next bar is hold it down for 2, and then the next 2 bars is all quarter notes, and then 2 half notes. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now let's make it a little more complicated. Why not? The beat goes on. Once a piece starts, that goes on until the piece ends. You can't hesitate. People will hesitate. They go 1, 2, 1. They'll hesitate the beat. You can't do that. Now, a lot of times you'll do that when you're learning the piece, but believe me, the piece isn't learned until you take out all those hesitations and can play the piece start to finish. Boom. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, all the way through until you're done. Then, on top of all that, we got to add the names of the notes, because we don't want to just play one note all the time. So you need to memorize these. They're the letters in the alphabet. It's the first 7 letters, A through G. We don't go above G. When you get to G, if you need to go more, you start over with A. It just repeats, it loops. So just remember, on a keyboard, I'm going to show you at the top, but I prefer, let's just look at the keyboard. The keys are arranged very neatly with these black keys in groups of 3 and 2, alternating. That tells us, this position, this arrangement tells us what the names of the white keys are, because we don't put the names of the notes on the keys. A lot of beginners do, but believe me, when you get to playing the piano, you don't have time to be reading the names of the notes. So the sooner you learn these, the better. A C is at the bottom of a group of 2 black keys. There's a bunch of C's on the piano because there's a bunch of groups of 2 black keys. Here, 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 here. They're all C's. Just memorize that on a piano. A C. Just know where they are. A D, you go up the alphabet, you go up the piano, is the next note up. So a D is the middle of the group of 2. Lots of D's all over the place. Got 2 notes learned already. Look at the next note there, it's an E. An E is the top of a group of 3. See, C, D, E, see a pattern? E's, these are all E's. So you got to know the names of the notes on the piano. The sooner you learn them, the better. And now we need to know the names of the notes in the music. Because of all these C's on the piano, there's only one of them that matches that note in the music. Only one. And that is this C. Sort of in the middle. Not exactly, but it's close. And that's it. So when you see that note, like the first note in this line in the music, you play that note on the piano. None of the others, just that one. The D is the next one above it. So you're going, it's the space right below that. The 5 lines is called a staff, right? So the space right below that staff is a D, and then the E is the bottom line. Memorize the names of the notes in the music. You can get flashcards. You can make your own flashcards. I suggest for a while when you're doing this, you forget the rhythm, forget the counting, and just play the note and say the name of it. That first note is a C, and then a D, and an E, and then a C, and a D, and an E, and then a D, C, D, E, C, C. Go through and say the names of the notes. Drill yourself. It's got to be instant. You need to see it and instantly know what it is. That takes time to learn that. But it's doable. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So that's what it is. When we see that these notes, we're going to play this. Then we have the counting. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we put that much together. Well, let's add some more. Why not? We're not done yet. You're not confused enough yet. Above the staff, you see the numbers 1, 2, 3? That's not counting. That's different. We got a lot of numbers in music. That is finger numbers. The fingers are numbered in both hands. And they're identical. The hands mirror each other, so the numbers mirror each other. The thumb is finger number 1, and the little finger is finger number 5, and you can figure out the others. And that's both hands are that way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. They're telling you which fingers to use to play those notes. So if I play the first one with thumb, I'll do the second one with second finger, and then third finger. Basically, I'm in this position. So just put your hand in this position and leave it there and just play these. Just there. And get to where you can do this without looking at the keyboard. You need to know which fingers are on which notes without constantly looking down and reminding yourself. Let's see, I need to play a D. Which finger is that? You need to just have that mental image of my second finger's on a D in this position, so I'm going to play that. That takes time. You got to work on that. And that's basically how it works. Now all we got to do is add a whole lot more notes and stuff as we go through the book. And so keep up, because we're only going to challenge and add more, so make sure you have this before you go on. Now in my videos I like to do what I call a play with me. There's a section in the video labeled in it that the starting point of the section is in the description, so you can go right to it when you're looking for it. Because the idea is you'll watch the video, you'll go through the lesson, then you'll stop the video, learn the piece, work on it. When you think you've got it, come back to the video, watch the lesson again to review everything, and then do the play with me and play it with me slowly to double check that you have the correct notes and the correct rhythms. You see, if you had a teacher sitting there, they would tell you if you had a wrong note real quick. If you don't have a teacher, you don't know that. You could play a wrong note and not know it. Your rhythm could be off and you don't know it. So do the play with me section, and that way you can check it. You should sound the same as what I'm doing. The same note at the same time. So let's try that out now. Play with me. I'm going to count. Let's see, I'm going to give us 4 counts. I'm going to go 1, 2, ready, go. And then we play this together slowly, just to make sure we can play it accurately. So go ahead and put your hand in that position where we've been. I'll give us 4 counts. 1, 2, ready, go. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, off. Now over on page 6, straight across, there is a teacher part, so we can play a duet. And I'd like to do that. I'd like to play that part over there. And as I'm playing that, you play what we just played. We're going to go the same speed we just did. And you can hear the duet. I can't hear it, but you can hear it. That's close enough. So go ahead and put your hand here. Now, I might mention, if you have a teacher there with you and they want to play on the same keyboard, or not even a teacher, but anybody who can play this, and they want to play on the same keyboard, I recommend you pretend that this first note is actually up here. Play this C instead, because that gives you a little more room, because they're going to be playing down in this area, and if you're playing here, it gets real crowded. So if you just move up here and just play it up here, just pretend you're down there, it makes it easier for the other person. But otherwise, play it right where it's written is fine. 1, 2, ready, go.